Hello, everyone. I'm Jason Ward from MakingStarWars.net. And this time it's actually not about spaceships for the first time in a while. It's about turtles. Right, Rob? Turtles. Turtles, Rob?
It's not about shell shock. It's not about shell shock. It's not about shell shock.
um, as you can see, Rob's background there, this crazy turtles guy spent, what'd you say, 100 hours on this probably?
Yeah, it's about 100 hours. I know because I recorded every last bit of it.
Oh, so you have it? Is it all like was it all streamed or something? Or
Yeah. So I have all the streams on my YouTube, and then I have prints and posters available on my website, shopsketchcraft.com. Right. So
sketchcraft.com,
yeah,
where you can get your own turtles print. That's cool.
I actually have this as a poster. I have the poster myself because I have that arcade one up, right? Turtles arcade. And then I just printed this up 20 by 30 and put it right behind there, So I was like, there.
So today we're talking about turtles, right? Turtles. It's called Mutant Mayhem. It's a movie. And I went to the theater and so did Rob, and we saw the movie with our own two peepers. All right. So there's going to be a lot of spoilers in this. And so Rob and I tend to go like free form stream of consciousness, just smooth jazz, baby. Like that's how we do it usually. But I did try to make some notes about like how the general story goes. So if you don't want spoilers, this ain't going to be your thing. If you are cool with spoilers, then here they come. I'm just going to lay out what the movie is, and then me and Rob will discuss it. So it opens with these soldiers that are like raiding Baxter Stockman's house or his home, his little lair, and they want what he's working on. And we see he has these little babies and stuff, and they're like little animals, little creatures. And then we see that he is getting rid of the ooze. And then we go 15 years later. The turtles are going grocery shopping by stealing toilet paper, toiletries, food, all that kind of stuff that they need. On their way home from such thievery, they go to the drive-in and they watch Ferris Bueller, where they see what it's like to be a teenager. They're already aware of it, but they watch it there. They see children or teenagers being teenagers, and they wish they could partake. When they get home, Splinter, their father, the giant rat, is mad that the boys took so long, and that he's like, he questions why are they seeing a movie about humans, and like why would you even want to bother? And then that's where we get a weird moment where he gives us the origins of the turtles to them as if it's a story they've never heard before. But I'm guessing that they might have been too small to remember it for what it's worth. Young Splinter has like a real Hall & Oates vibe looking when we get the flashbacks, which I appreciated.
It seemed more like a lecture, by the way.
A lecture. Yeah, it was a lecture.
Because he says, I'm going to tell you the really long version. So it seemed more like, okay, you know it, but I'm going to lecture you,
Yeah. And then like that's where we learn that they watched this video called Carrie Lee's Guide to Self-Defense, and they watch like VHS videos on fighting and how to do martial arts, and then they watch actually like Bruce Lee style films and bad martial arts films, and so that informs who they are, their personalities as fighters, and all of that stuff. That's why they get a little showy, I guess. And then, but meanwhile, we learn that Superfly, the little baby fly from Baxter's experiments, is robbing tech to make a super weapon and exact revenge on humanity. Clever things happen though during some of these parts, like we see the turtles making videos like TikToks, but there's a sort of like sadness to it because you know that the kids are making TikToks of themselves like slicing watermelons and stuff, but they're videos they can never post because they're living underground in secret. So they end up, while they're messing around making these TikToks they'll never post, they end up throwing a ninja star at the watermelon or at the food or whatever. They miss, they hit April O'Neil, who in this iteration is a young black teenage woman around 15, 16 years old. And they're just while she's up yelling at the turtles, who hit me with this ninja star, somebody steals her scooter. And then the turtles are then forced to debate, what are we going to do about this? Are we going to go save, are we going to get our scooter back? Or are we going to just like look the other way? And they, of course, Leo is smitten with April, and that kind of pushes them into becoming heroes of the moment. So as the heroes finally they beat up a gang. They get her bike is just sitting in this garage where it was stolen. And then April's like, I know you're back there, come out. They come out. She's freaked out by them, but she knows that they're helping her and that they're like good. They decide to get pizza. They kind of like, because they are teenagers, they bond over pizza. And then we get more of Leonardo having the hots for April. And we learn in this conversation that April O'Neil, who we know as classically as a TV reporter, does not want to be on camera. And the boys in this instance also learn that she's freaked out by them. They learn that she finds them disgusting because they're mutants, you know? And but she says basically, you guys helped me, so I know you're not disgusting. I know you're not bad. And that's when Donatello has the plan that if they stop Superfly, the New Yorkers will then love them. If they drag Superfly and drop him on City Hall's doorstep like superheroes, everyone will love them. And one of them comments that it's like Hulk in Endgame because Hulk is scary, green, but accepted. So they're like, oh yeah. They all understand that, and they need April's help. They call, and they call April and say, yeah, we want to do this thing, and we'll we'll talk to you, and you could help us. You could help because she's on the. They sense that she's on the case because of some evidence that she stole from the garage, I believe. And that's when we see the teenage moments where he's like, Leo's like, it's a date, and then she's like, what? And then they all freak out. They all like hang up the phone and flip out because they got embarrassed. And but they meet April O'Neil at a real high school. So in a weird way, it's like she's taking them into the world that they want to be in, that they're excluded from. And they have a little moment where they like put their names on a list and everything, and they find out that prom is canceled and stuff. But then they're trying to figure out what their names are, and they look at a locker, and there's one that says Puke Girl, and the turtles start laughing. They're like, at least your name's not Puke Girl, and she is Puke Girl. And we learn that she vomited while doing the morning announcements at school and became a viral meme, and they call her April O'Puke. So she confesses to them she wants to be a hero just as much as they do. So that's when they kind of become unlikely allies. That's when we figure out they both want the same thing, but just from different perspectives. And April confesses that she's been on the Superfly story. She knows all about the local crime gangs that are being organized, and she has the board with all the yarn going everywhere and stuff like that. We then get a music montage to the turtles beating the shit out of all the gangsters in the area. They're like all these small gangs that kind of like are, I don't know if it's organized crime, but as much as it's just like a bunch of small like local gangs. And and basically a remix of No Diggity plays while the turtles just beat the shit out of all these guys. Music stops at the end, and one guy's like, I know where Superfly is going to be. He tells him, and then Mikey still knocks him out because he's just rough around the edges. And then was it Raphael? Okay, fair enough. Yeah, you're right. It's Raphael. Splinter then texts them 911. They go home. He has standees of Chris Evans, Chris Pratt, and Chris Pines. He's like, I know you guys want human stuff. Here's all the human stuff, and you can order whatever you want as long as it's pizza. And he has pizza for them and stuff. The kids are just like, thanks, Dad, kind of freaked out by the weirdness of it. And they bolt back with April. And basically they end up meeting with Superfly at the meeting. And then this is where we learn that Superfly's like actual plight makes a lot of sense. He wants to destroy humanity with the super weapon that will turn all of the animals of Earth into mutants, and then they will then revolt against the humans. That's like the idea. And then April's like, this is really bad for me. And Leo's like, oh, that's my girl. No, I can't let that happen. And then the turtles are like, yeah, we don't want that either. And then as the story goes on, some of the mutants, even like Rocksteady and Bebop, end up turning on him because they're like, we don't really want to be a part of the extermination of a whole race of people. We're not really about that. And but the boys end up getting captured by the scientists from the opening of the film, who are then milking them. And it's this like ongoing joke throughout it that the humans will take you and they will milk you. And they are being milked. And then basically Superfly is going to like make the weapon attack people. They kind of stop it it kind of goes off in the water, and then he becomes like a giant Godzilla monster and begins to attack the city. They take an Attack on Titan kind of thing with this like antidote that they're going to shoot into him and destroy him or turn him back into himself or whatever. And as everything's looking really bad in New York, there's big signs showing the turtles everywhere that are saying like the turtles are these bad guys. They're gonna kill everybody. The monster approaches near the news station. The news anchors run. April takes over the news and then tells the real story. And all of the story she's been working on for the whole movie, she basically reiterates to the people. She pukes. She pukes, swallows the puke, tells the story, and pukes, tells the rest of the story, something like that. So, anyways, all of the New Yorkers end up rallying behind the turtles and helping them. They end up taking the whole thing, the monster down. They stop Superfly. The mutants live underground with Splinter. Splinter gets a girlfriend, maybe a boyfriend, I don't know, a creature, and is dating somebody his own age. He's happy, and all the mutants are happy. And then the turtles end up with their first day in high school, and then they end up going to prom. And then that's sort of like the movie. They kind of like got what they wanted. And then there's a post-credit scene where we get Shredder. And he's called in by the scientist lady who started the whole thing from the beginning, and they're going after them. And that's like the gist of the movie's like plot. Now I'm sure Rob has a lot to say though. I just said a whole lot.
What?
Thank you for the super chat, Quentin.
Jason just repeats the whole movie. Good show. Jason got paid $5 to tell you the movie he spent $10 on, so you're halfway there.
Think about it.
Good job. I know, right? Yeah. Look, man, let me just tell you what I loved about the movie. Visually stunning. I think it's visually stunning, and I think I love the voice acting too, like across the board. It's all very well acted. I think the kids do really well with one another.
Mm-hmm.
It's as good as the Turtles voice acting from the 90s, movie, even, you know what I mean? Like probably even better in some respects because they're a little less like the rap from the 90s movie is the one where I'm like, all right, that's an accent, it's not the best, right? Michelangelo Spicoli, right? We get it. So this it's pretty good, dude. It's and I like the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the idea of the mutants and all the big fights and stuff, but they changed the origin to this in such an unnecessary way for me that I was like, how does it make it more relevant? Like it doesn't help.
Yeah, tell people what they changed, and then where you're like where the friction lies.
The problem I have, right, where it gets weird for me is like look, the Turtles as itself owes its entire origin to basically Jack Kirby and Frank Miller, right? Comic book artists, creators Jack Kirby and Frank Miller. Frank Miller specifically his Daredevil and Ronin series, right, with a little bit of Dark Knight Returns. And then Jack Kirby for all the crazy space stuff and cosmic stuff. And really, if you've ever I know Kevin Eastman, he would know me if you brought me up, so I'm on that level.
Yeah.
Peter Laird.
He doesn't know me, but we are going to hang out someday.
I got rejected by Peter Laird to work on the Turtles in 2004, so I have that. But Peter, he's a good dude. He's the Jack Kirby. Right, and Kevin Eastman's the Frank Miller, right? Like they would both say that's their biggest influences.
And you're the Stan Lee. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Stan Lee, like just Stan. That's Stan Lee, just Stanley.
The Stan Lee from Three's Company. Yeah.
So the origin of the Turtles in the comics, and how it is in pretty much almost every iteration, is that there's a sort of a shadow world of ninjas, right? That have been going on for centuries, and their origins sort of tied up in this battle between two different clans, right? Hamato Yoshi and Orokosaki, Foot Clan, and different elements of this stuff, and in the classic, sense that the one master's killed and Splinter's like a refugee. Then the Ooze thing happens separately, and they find a way to sort of exact revenge, right? Like honorable revenge, and And I don't mind saying, well, there's another way to tell the story, except that the whole point of the turtles being called Michelangelo, Leonardo, Raphael is that Splinter was an he grew in brains rather than brawn. Like he just became extremely educated, and his master was sort of classically educated too. So there's this whole like sense of history, right? Not just of the ninja stuff, but of world history and knowledge,
like refinement.
Refinement, right?
Yeah. And it clashes with their 80s cowabunga party dude styles.
And these kids grow up on pop culture, so there's the clash between the father and sons, the old world versus the new world, right? And in whatever iteration,
film, Rob, does it ever make sense why they have those names? Because I didn't catch it.
It makes no sense. No. This world, they all grew up. There is no Foot Clan in that sense. There is no Splinter was raised by someone else. He's just a rat on the streets, like Ratatouille. So essentially, he should have named these kids Chef Boyardee, Skittles,
Luke Skywalker,
Bobcat Goldthwait. You know what I mean? Like they all should have had pop culture names, essentially. Like, and look, is that like a walk out of the theater discuss? No, it's not. But it just fundamentally like it makes when the Shredder eventually shows, it makes the Shredder like a hitman, and it's not a personal story. And there's always like these varying levels of like families and betrayal and revenge and drama, right? At the heart of it, there's the Foot Clan side, there's the space side with the Ootroms, which we can get into, which is the creators of the Ooze, and there's an intergalactic bit there where it could go into. And this sort of like it just eschews that to be I don't know why they would do it. It confuses me because it sort of just puts the film where Splinter, like, okay, first off, why would they be ninjas if they grew up with kung fu tapes? Like, you know, like it's weird. Like
I could see why they would go like, well, okay, let's look at it from a couple of ways. So on that one, ninjas are like stealthy, and that's where they would do it. But also like ninjas are like assassins, which they're not. So them actually being assassins was always kind of like a bit of a thing. So I could let that one slide. But you know what I didn't like? This is me. I'm going to be the most prude you're ever going to hear me be in my whole life. But remember when we were kids and they're like, put the pizza down the hole, dude. And then they like put the money up. In this one, the turtles just steal. They don't ever, they rob from a mom and pop.
They don't leave money.
They don't put the money
at the till
in the register. Yeah. And I thought that was when I saw that as a parent, that's where I was like, look, those humans are going to kill you and you got to eat. You definitely should steal that food for sure. But they have phones. They have all of these. They have ways of getting money. I guess they steal the money. Maybe, I don't know, because they order pizza at one point. And but I was a little bit like, maybe they should have put, maybe they should have had that little moment there where they do pay. And that does happen before they decide to be heroes, though. And so I can let it go.
But they're already wearing costumes with their names on it. Like none of this sort of makes any sense to me. Like, so, and then it does something else that I fundamentally have a problem with any movie. Mm-hmm. And it's where you tell a joke and then you tell the same joke and then you tell the joke again and then you do it a fourth time. Mm-hmm. But if that weren't enough, Jason, you do it a fifth time. And in case you didn't get it, you do it a sixth time, and then you make it a 3-minute gag, and then you do the joke.
It doesn't go that.
It does. It does. It when you watch it again, count.
Okay.
Count.
Wait, which joke?
It almost
which
does
joke are
the
you
milking
to?
Milking them.
The milking thing.
That they get milk.
Well,
it goes on and on
the milk. Yeah, the milking one though is kind of funny to me because like at first when he says it, you're like, what the fuck? And then when he says it again, you're like, this guy keeps saying that. But then at the end when they are being milked, it's kind of funny. I mean, I don't know. I didn't love it. I didn't love it. But,
2 or 3 times. It's just look. It has 5 screenwriters credited. Right. We're not talking about like behind the scenes.
And I think that's probably part of the problem with the movie because I am with you though, Rob. I'm with you 100% in the sense that I feel like this franchise has the ability to offer us something as good as the Spider-Verse right now. All of the cast, the designs, the character, the tone, it's all there, but the movie itself leaves a lot to be desired.
Even visually, let me get back to the visuals, because one of the things it does that I love is it does a flashback sequence when they're dreaming about going to school, where it looks like how we would draw the turtles when we were 8 on their notebook.
It's exactly how we drew the turtles when we were kids. Like whoever did that callback knows that's how we did it. And I was like, pretty good, man.
Yeah, and it's
that's
brilliant.
How I did it.
And I was like, given that they're able to have different art styles, when they did the flashback sequences, they could have done them in the original Mirage Comics duotone style. And they could have even drawn them in a way that they look like the original comics, even though these characters don't look like that.
Yeah.
Like especially if they were retelling their origin to April and they're trying to make themselves seem cooler. So we saw the hardcore version, like the really cool version of them, but they're kind of dorky now. So there's just all this opportunity. I'm like, there's ways to go another step further here that doesn't betray the tone or the audience that they're seeking with the film,
Yeah.
But yeah, I just fundamentally have a problem with turning Splinter into someone who just hates it. I mean, I get if he's distrustful of the humans, especially if Baxter Stockman that's the thing too. Baxter Stockman disappears, and if you know anything from the comics, he creates the Mousers, and like the Mousers hunting down Splinter is a whole thing, and that could have been a hell of a sequence in this. If all the mutants had gone into the sewers, and then Superfly. First off, they never go look for Baxter Stockman, which is weird because they're like, that's our dad too. Whatever happened to Baxter? I don't know. Don't bring it up. But had they unleashed the Mousers, there's a whole thing there. But I don't know. Just one of those things where I'm like, I can see people liking it just fine. But I would say for those that complained about the Mario Brothers movie being a little too simple, there's at least a lyrical nature to Mario. It doesn't kind of get in its way. You know what I mean? And this sometimes this could shut up a little bit. Just chill out.
Both things can be shortcomings, though, I will say, because I think that there are shortcomings on both. And one of the things, so there's a weakness in the script there because of how they decided to deal with Splinter, but then there's also a strength. And I personally probably would have not done it myself if I was doing the script. Obviously I don't write scripts, but if I was in that Splinter, then when he meets up with Superfly, when he sees what Superfly's perspective is, that's his awakening moment for himself. That what he's been teaching his children is exactly the same. I'm going to use it in quotations, racism that Superfly is exhibiting to his mutant brothers and sisters.
Here's the thing, though. So I think maybe the way they were thinking was, well, if his master was a human, how could he hate humans? But his master was also killed by a human. So maybe he just trusts most humans, and he only thought there was ever one good one, and that guy's dead. There's just another way. And it's not like if this movie was running away from the concepts of death because it's too hard for a kid, I would go, that's one thing, but it isn't. This movie's not running away from that concept at all. So there is no excuse for why they couldn't have had that as a backstory. I was thinking at first, maybe Splinter showing them a version of their history in the way that the 90s movie, there was one origin. And then later on, you find out about the betrayal later when Splinter tells Danny, because there's two origin tales in the first movie, but each one expands the other. This one, they just tell you the same info you already heard 5 minutes before,
So in our critique of this, I think it's important that we pretend, because of the history of Turtles as we've seen it over the last several years. Most of these are intended to be a new launch franchise, and then they become a one and done. And this one right here, we could only critique it on what the film has given us, not what it might be giving us. I do hope that in the sequel there's some kind of Empire Strikes Back-y kind of moment where we find out that Splinter's been hiding some shit. Maybe there's more to the story. Maybe he keeps retelling that story that way because the truth is he did train, maybe he gave up martial arts after the death of his master and then went back into it, like when the kids, something like that. I do hope that they expand that, because right now the way that the lore moment, number one, it's just told to the kids as punishment, which is then to inform the audience. But then I felt like it feels, I could be wrong, but 5 minutes later, they meet April, and then they go back into it. Now they don't actually go through and reiterate it beat by beat. They tell it in a comedic way where we get to see them sort of doing the improv of all the turtles talking over each other and stuff. And I appreciate the moment for like what it is, but I couldn't help but. And then later on in the film, by the way, when the kids are kidnapped, April goes into the lair and finds Splinter. So when you get down to it, they should have just had the kids take April home, like in the original film, and then they should have the story should have come out then, and it would have just it was done that way in the original film, and it was the best way to do it. And in this film, they didn't want to do it the same way, and it kind of got a bit loopy because of it, and a bit redundant, and I will say, for adults who are following along, a little that can be a little dumb. It could be, but I will say for children who don't pay attention so well, maybe it will work well. But at the same time, I don't think that's a good enough excuse to to be redundant. And but like yeah, like the stuff, they did a good job. So what I will say is, people were really, I think, hard on April. And a couple of things I want to say about April is that number one, I like the arc of the character in this particular story, in the sense that her arc does run parallel to the turtles. She does have an arc. It's not just I want to scoop. She does have a story. She is also a teenager just like them, as opposed to them being teenagers and her being like, I don't know, 36 or something. And so that right there, I like that better. I know some people were just mad that she was a black teenage girl, and it's like, well, that's your fucking problem, bud. I don't really care about that either way. But what I will critique it on is the animation style that works really, really well, I think, for the turtles. Makes it seem like when she's moving, like she's having a hard time moving. And it makes April not look like she's a teenager, but instead like a 40-year-old woman. And that's what
she sort of moves like a 30, 20, it's a 32-year-old. I mean, like
with back problems. She's like
back problems,
right.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm okay with her being like a chubby teen. That's fine. You know what I mean? Like that's and like her being an outsider, her being the puke girl thing, And then my problems with the story is, number one, her being puke girl is fine. She doesn't want to be on camera. We know April O'Neil as being a woman on camera. So we have a good arc for the character to see to fruition. But at the end of the movie, though, when she does get on camera, she still pukes. She's still puke girl. And I thought she swallows it. I thought she should have swallowed it and done the story, not swallowed it, done the story, and puked together. I think she shouldn't have puked at the end. I think that should have been her overcoming her anxiety, and then actually
it's the gaining of confidence. It's a confidence game.
Which she does it though. She still does it. She still does it. It's just not funny when it happens.
You got to understand how much it looks. So for me, guys, the whole reason why I'm even drawing today is because of the Turtles comic. I like superheroes as a kid, and I like comic strips like Garfield, but the Turtles comics, specifically when First Publishing did a 4-book re-release, right? Was like it was in all the bookstores. I mean, I traded money and sodas at school to get those books from people, like that's where everything changed. That's when I started redrawing the pages, and that's when people started recognizing, oh, kid's got talent, that kind of thing. So
Rob discovered his talent. I beat the Turtles game, and it was really hard, and it took me like hundreds of hours. So I guess we all did different things with our time.
And I understand there's always an adaptation, but we've never had a real visual adaptation of the original comic. Out of all the superhero properties, the closest thing to it is the first movie, which does adapt 3 or 4 issues from the comic, specifically, I think issues, 8 or 9 through 10 or 11, somewhere around there, or book 4 in the First Publishing series. It's the whole return of Shredder, and then they attack the shop, and then they go to the farm, and they come back. That whole bit is straight out from the comics, almost to the point where you can storyboard it.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's beat for beat. But in the comic, April O'Neil was originally Baxter Stockman's assistant. And I was like, this was an opportunity for Baxter Stockman to be like at the school or taking interns, and April doing, choosing between science or investigative science or something.
Kind of like the teacher in Gremlins who's like kind of cool, who like is like doing experiments on Gizmo and stuff.
Right. Yeah. So like, and it's like the relationship already exists. It would actually help the film more. And for what little time Giancarlo Esposito has time to do the voice of Baxter Stockman, it sounded great.
Did, yeah.
Like, and I was like, man, I just want to hear Giancarlo do more crazy science. And, so it's like having those two together, I don't like, just seemed like a more elegant way to do it that didn't involve making up things that I don't know. Like April is a person who's noticed at school but she seems to be someone who doesn't want to be in the limelight, but then wants to step out. So it's like, you're already noticed. You're just noticed for being like a dork. I don't know if that's quite the same thing, like it's overcoming time. It's like a different arc to get over. It's like acceptance.
Yeah.
Like that's not a confidence issue. It's an acceptance issue, but she has a confidence issue. But the school, it's just weird to me. It's like two different things that maybe you don't notice, but I mean, there's something it's not sinking in the right way. Confidence is maybe she never thought she was smart enough or good enough to do something, right? And then she's able to fill in the gap that Baxter Stockman couldn't, right? Or to save Splinter with the Mousers or something. There's just those things that it's like, I don't know why, Jason, why they feel the need to reinvent certain things.
It has that classic failing that you see in films that are reimaginings where they don't want to put Shredder in the first one. They want to milk it, to use the movie's joke, all the way to the fact when we get Shredder in a post credits. They don't want to, like, everything like doesn't come right out, and everything starting early to get to maximize potential and stuff like that. And the problem, like with the movie, is number one, I think Superfly himself is good, but I still feel like the movie lacked a really cohesive, solid villain. Like, and Shredder is, unfortunately, is that. And
they're trying to make the Utram, the old lady is supposed to be, her last name is Utram, which is the name of the alien species. That's what Krang is. Yeah. Right. But they weren't inherently bad. They're just aliens.
Is she going to become the body with Krang inside?
She's a Terminator.
She's a
Terminator.
Like, okay.
So the Utrams are they're Terminator bodies with little brains in their bellies. All right. Yeah. So like they're trying to make her be like them, but they're not inherently villains. So, okay, if you're going to make them the villain, then like you may as well, like, here's the thing, they have a bunch of guns that can demutinize stuff, and it's made a big deal from the beginning of the film. So at the end, when the turtles have one gun to stop the Godzilla, why didn't she just, there's your mutant, there's your giant mutant full of ooze you want, it's sitting right there, where are they? Like, they just disappear.
Why aren't you collecting him? And then also I thought you brought up a great point when we briefly talked after our Star Wars show today, and you were like, if they were gonna, like, that was when they go to do the Attack on Titan bit and they mention it and everything, which I thought was great. I loved it. That made me very happy. When my kid sees it, he's gonna love that. And I'm taking him on Saturday to see it, so I'll let you guys know how it goes over. But you said like that was the moment to do it, like an Attack on Titan moment, and I was like,
and this is the other big problem I have with the film is I utterly disagree with the choice of score. I'm not talking about putting like the pop songs in there, right? Which I'm hit or miss on some of them. Some of them are great. Some of them I'm like, fine. But the score is Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. And they went with this sort of like Stranger Things synth thing with hip hop. And it misses an anthem. There's no heroic anthem. And they're trying to become heroes. And the composer for Attack on Titan is Hiroyuki Sawano. And if you've ever listened to the music on Attack on Titan, if you're ever having a bad day, right, and you're like, I don't know how to defeat the life, go put that fucking thing on.
There's a dude like, on YouTube who does like these concerts of like Mario and stuff, like out in public, and he does an Attack on Titan one. It's a really good way to listen to all of the Attack on Titan's best musical moments.
I'm getting goosebumps right now just thinking about it. All right,
that's really good.
Hiroyuki Sawano is my favorite composer of the last decade. All right, I mean, not just that. He's done Kill La Kill, a bunch of stuff. He's got independent albums. He does mix rock and hip hop and trumpets, and he can do anything. So get Hiroyuki Sawano, but at the very least, when they go to do this, take down the bit and do an Attack on Titan bit, that's where all that coalesces into like their theme should come together right there. But there's no Turtles theme. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but like one of the reasons why all of this, I feel, exists today with the cartoon and the movies is because Turtles always had really recognizable music in the 80s and 90s. Like, you just remember, even the 90s movie had a new theme, but it was something you could hum. You know?
Yeah, like the actual like Ninja Turtles song from the show, I don't know if there's a problem with using it or whatever, but reusing that melody is very catchy, and it should have been in there.
Something, or they could have, created. This is just one of those things where I just think like the music, and I was really looking forward when I heard Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross for doing the score. I'm like, well, this is going to be totally different. I can't wait to see what they do. And it just doesn't feel like the Turtles. It feels.
I meet you in the middle on this. I agree with you that we needed an actual Turtles theme, and it needed to emerge when they actually do get going. It does some weird things, like it references Go Ninja Go from Turtles 2, which is something that's better forgotten.
Forgotten.
But
TR Turtle Power, TURTLE Power from the first film's a better song than Go Ninja Go.
Yeah. But I would be fine if they had celebrated all of it. If they had, I would be like, fine, it's fine. It's part of its history and stuff. Go ahead and do that. Now, I liked the actual like music. I didn't think that the mix was bad. I thought that it did a pretty good job. And there's always the drum machines playing, but I thought it did a good job of when like you felt that like it was hard to understand the dialogue with the drums playing and stuff. But for the most part, I didn't have a problem.
I felt it was hard to understand. No. I felt it was hard to understand some of the dialogue when they're playing Fornon's Blondes and singing, especially with the lyrics with the remix. It's at the same level as they're speaking, so it's just going in and out of their stuff, and I'm like, this is a weird mix. Like this is
so here's my problem with that is that I feel like there's this idea that they're doing music of the day that calls back to what makes us feel that the Turtles are the Turtles, like the time of the Turtles.
Nobody associated the Fornon Blondes with
because
Turtles,
it's not the right time, Rob. It's about 6 years off. It's Nevermind has happened. The music that you're referencing is pre-Nevermind, and then there's post-Nevermind. And
Rage Against the Machine makes more sense than this, like
which is around the time of Nevermind still, and it's still not there. Right. It's still not there.
Like, no, we need more Bobby Brown. Sad to say, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Right.
I mean, it's
Slick
like,
Rick.
Yeah, I mean, because it was like the original Turtles film is 1990. Turtles 2 comes out in 91, but so does Nevermind in September of 91. So just to Secret of the Ooze. So just to put it into context, nobody's talking about Turtles 3 in 93. Like that didn't happen. Okay. Nobody's referencing
no one wanted to hear it from me, the Turtles guy.
Turtles in Time.
Like I was the Star Wars guy in the 80s, right? When I was a kid that no one wanted to hear from, and I was the Turtles kid in the 90s no one wanted to hear from. Right.
I'm like, I'm like if you're gonna do that, like you should have been going with like MC Light and just stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like that's
Fresh Prince, Jazzy Jeff. I mean,
you say He's Just a Friend even would have been better, especially like when April's rejecting him. Like there was a much better pop soundtrack to this movie that could have been there. And Pistol Pete says they should have brought back the Vanilla Ice song. They actually do, and that's the problem. That's all they bring back is the fucking Vanilla Ice song. That's it. The thing that was like, oh God, this is never going to get better now, is it? I mean, as a child, that was a moment where I was like, well, my childhood's dead. And then Nevermind came out. And I was a teenager. You know what I mean? Like that's how it went for me anyways.
I prefer Rage over Nirvana, but Nirvana's like right under it for me.
You're a phony Stone Temple Pilots guy.
The first two Stone Temples, and then we'll go
I'll give you some Interstate Love Song on the Crow soundtrack, but that's where I draw the line, bud. But
Creep is great too, right? Which is the
that's
precursor.
Radiohead. That's Radiohead.
No,
Come on,
that's Stone Temple's first album, Creep.
Oh, the record. Okay, see, I only know the good Creep by Radiohead.
The song. Anyway, but look, like I said, it's visually stunning film, folks. Like I'm not over here like I'm looking at like I love this look for the, I mean, don't like the design of Splinter at all, like all the way through. Yeah, I don't like any of it. I just don't. I don't. And April, look, a lot of people felt April should have been black from the beginning because she has a perm, but she was based off Kevin Eastman's girlfriend who was white. She just had a perm. All our moms had that perm. I thought she had a 80s. In the comic in the 80s, she had the big perm.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. And kids these days just don't understand. Like every 80s woman had a perm. Once Joni and Chachi got perms, every woman in the 80s got a perm. Like that's kind of how the 80s worked. Like, yeah, I know you don't know, but my mom was a Joni and Chachi person, so that's how it worked
at some point.
Yeah, that's how that went. So, but like I other than that, man, like it's just a shame that. Like, I don't know how well, I can't tell you how well it's going to hit over with kids because the theater I was in, I went to the early showing. Mm-hmm. And there was maybe 5 people in there, and I was the oldest person by about 30 years. So,
yeah.
And they weren't rooting, but I don't know what that means. They might just be quiet kids. So I can't tell you. They all left.
My screening was maybe the best that you could ever have, because it was like the YMCA special needs showing that I went to just by but they were into it. They had a good time. They were clapping all the time. So I saw it with the audience who loved the movie. And so I'm going to go on Saturday, the Saturday, and take my kids to see it because my kids are out of town right now. And don't tell them I saw it. I'm just not addressing that I saw it. And then I'm going to take them to see it on the weekend. And we're going to see it with like I'm going to see it with my kids and like a general audience and see how do they react? If there's even a general audience there, that's the other question is I don't know how it's going to perform and how it is performing and stuff like that. But
I'm not good at predicting box office, so I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, it's like this is like a launch of a Turtles. This is like a relaunch of the franchise. And I love the characters and their depictions in it personally. I even like
the voice acting, the relationships.
Yeah, it like all of it's working for me, and all of it's like, and like I see it a lot of potential and possibilities that go beyond what our expectations of the Turtles are in such ways as a sequel. They're going to be at school, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities, I think, to steal from Spider-Man because
here's something else. A question I had about the school thing. So the post-credit sequence has a prom sequence, so they actually go to prom. So I guess they're actually going to be out of school because it should have been homecoming. Not
April should have worn a prom.
They're jumping right. They're jumping right. Well, that's the thing. They're all wearing tuxedos, but April's wearing her normal clothes. I was like, budget? Was that just a budget thing? Was this like a? I think that was added. Just because April throws in a line that I believe is 80 yard. I don't think she's actually saying it if you look at her. Because she says, we're just friends, right? And I'm like, I think that's one of those. We got to make sure she's not. I don't know. Like, you're either got April in love with the turtle or you don't, and don't. Like, you guys got to figure that out before. This is not a hard thing to figure out before the movie, And personally, the answer is always she's not going to sleep with the turtle. They got a crush on a girl, and that's it. Like that's kind of where it starts and stops. I just don't see. I know the furry generation's into it.
I think
the furry.
I think she's gonna get
one second. I was wondering, are they gonna turn her into like a furry or a turtle, or you know what I mean? I was for a second. I was like, will they go there to get around this, or turn Leo into a gay kid for a second, or I don't know.
Yeah, I as I was like looking at it, I don't know if is that a classic Turtles convention that Leo is the one who likes her, or is that made up for this film? Because in terms of having April O'Neil be a nerd, unaccepted, slightly overweight girl, or overweight girl for that matter, it seems like her and Donatello would be the actual fit there. He's an anime nerd. Like, she's in the AV club. Like, that's where, but I also felt like Donatello was one of the best characters in the film. And then I thought that Leonardo pops in the film because of the romance. So I kind of think that and then the other two turtles feel a little bit left behind, I think, in terms of like great moments and stuff. And most of the funny moments for me were from Donatello, I'd say. So I could see why maybe they decided to like disperse it, but I also thought the Donatello made the most sense to be the one that would have you know, a connection to her. But maybe that's something that will happen in the future. Maybe you know, as we get into our Cobra Kai teenage romance stuff as this goes on, because it's you know, it's going to be a series, and then there's going to be a second film and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think I could easily see a scenario where they try to make like the Foot Clan a local dojo that shows up, and then at the school it's these kids joining the Foot Clan. You literally get the Cobra Kai storyline in the Turtles thing. You know,
that's what I was gonna say, was like, because like also I think it's probably safe to say that when Casey Jones shows up, he's going to be a kid from the school and not like a weird vigilante adult. It's probably going to be one of the kids. And like with their involvement in things and April's involvement in things, it would make sense that they, like in that Batman, you know, the Dark Knight kind of way, they would create Casey Jones at that high school where some kid would be like, I'm going to do it too. And so there's like a lot of like, like I said, a lot of potential, because high school is the place that they want to be. But then they're now heroes, and they are heroes. And so therefore when Shredder comes, there's going to be like, how does Donatello get an A on the math test and still fight the Foot Clan at night and still fight the Foot Clan in general? Like, how do you make that happen? So that's where I think that there's like a lot of room, like I said, to rip off the Spider-Man tropes and to take the Turtles place into somewhere it's never been before, which is the Turtles actually go to high school. It's ridiculous, but it's fun. There's potential there.
I don't mind ridiculousness. You know, I'm not watching the Ninja Turtles because I'm expecting grounded reality here. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, of course.
I just think at its core, its origins should always be tied into a shadow war, you know, a feudal Japan ninja thing. And then you go off into the intergalactic mutant stuff to, you know, lighten up and brevity and blah, 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 blah. That's the brilliant thing about the Turtles, that they can do Jack Kirby and Frank Miller, that distance in terms of genre, and it works, you know. And so here, adding that Spider-Man component, yeah, dude, it's super fun. Something else I found a little weird though, Jason, and you know, I think you would agree too. Them watching movies of real humans and not animating those movies was odd, right? Like watching real life Ferris Bueller. Like,
that's what I was telling you. I was like, when I heard about that sequence before, from somebody who had seen it, and when I heard it, I just imagined that they animated the sequence, not that it was just like clips from the movie. And I thought, like, in a way, it kind of felt like it was like a missed opportunity, because it would have been awesome to have seen those scenes in their animation style. I understand how expensive that would be, but this is a film.
Not that expensive, because I mean, they could have done something like the Waking Life stuff or whatever else. I'm reminded of the end credits to the She-Hulk series, which were drawn like in a gestural, like caricature style with watercolor. You know, and it's like, there's no reason why the standees of Chris Pine and Chris Evans couldn't have been like that too. You know what I mean? Like, there's just I don't know. Like the photo thing is like, I'm not feeling that. Was just odd to me. Yeah.
It's a little, I don't know what you call it. Like it's like what South Park does, and where all of a sudden there's like something real, you know, and it's like kind of funny, or like Muppet Babies would do that, and it's kind of jarring, and it could be like
South Park
is
parody, and Muppets is parody, and so this is not trying to be parody, you know, it's high adventure.
Yeah, and that's where I was like, it doesn't bother me, like I'm not mad at it for doing it. But like when I just saw Spider-Verse, that showed me all kinds of different styles in one film. and that was brave enough to do it, and down to pay
they mentioned Batman in this film, right? They go, Leonardo's talking like Batman. So in their world, Batman exists. So does Daredevil exist? Does Daredevil exist in their world? I mean, the Marvel movies do. Why wouldn't they mention Daredevil, right? Like, that is where their origin literally comes from.
They're teenagers. They're being an elite comic book nerd to kids right now.
They're the ones mentioning Endgame and Attack on Titan and Batman. There's
no Daredevil in that, though. There's no Daredevil in those yet. So they just haven't. They haven't got comic there yet,
that they're actually. I know, isn't it hilarious? Like, it's like, all right, man. Like, all right.
Yeah. No. I know what you mean. Like there's like at times they did a good job of balancing. I thought they did a good job of balancing the pop culture stuff in the sense that they would say something like, "This is Attack on Titan," and then like that like parents don't know what that is overall. Only the cool parents like us, like me, and then
I'm not a parent.
Like, knows everything. Yeah, you're not you're a dog dad. You're a dad. You're a dog daddy.
Whatever they call that bullshit.
You're a dog. Okay. You're a mutant dog daddy. But anyways, no. It's like then they immediately they'll go like, "Oh, I'm Godzilla," and then like so they like do. I think the script does a good job of making sure that if you couldn't keep up, that you understand what's going on. And but I also could have used I'm not a Family Guy guy, but I could have used more pop culture references from the kids at times.
There was a Family Guy reference.
There is actually a Family Guy. Yeah. They call him. They say his head, that the watermelon head looks like Stewie with Hey Arnold. I think
Hey Arnold.
Yeah. And so the strength is in the like relationship of the kids. I also thought that in terms of script, story structure, kind of hero stuff, there should have been that opening fight should have been more of a struggle, and they should not have known how to work together. And then obviously by the end of it, they work together and succeed. There was none of that. There was just right off the bat, they were all perfectly fine. So it kind of like there was like room to do those things in the story. Sorry, sirens. JL Wireman, thank you for becoming a channel member, by the way. I wanted to thank him before I forgot. So anyways, yeah, but so there was like a lot of, there was some fat in the movie, and like the opening with the soldiers and the serum and what's going on with Baxter and stuff like that. I like the Baxter stuff, but those guys even being in the film after that point barely makes any sense. You don't need it. The actual friction lies between the turtles meeting the other mutants, and then all of the mutants together saying, "Who are we?" and figuring that out.
See, this is the problem for me where April, I just don't think April should have been a student. She should have been 15 and Baxter Stockman's assistant.
Yeah.
And then 15 years later, she's 30 and she gets reintroduced to the turtles. You know what I mean? Like the missing, like it's just more elegant. Just more elegant. You know, it's like trying to find a way to have his cake and eat it too.
Yeah. You could have made, I mean, if to armchair it, you could have made April somebody in science who was working for Baxter, who wishes that she got into journalism, never does. The turtles are lost. She ends up reuniting with them and then gets to finally do the thing that she was supposed to do, which is be a journalist, not an evil scientist assistant. There's ways of just making that shit happen, you know, and like, but that's once again, like, and that's where, when I see how many writers there are on this movie, you're like, you didn't need some of the shit. There was some that we needed, like somebody to really come in and I think cut this movie up, because the movie is only about 90 minutes and it does feel like it's 2 hours at a point. And there were moments towards the back end of the movie, like when they're actually doing the fight, I have to confess, when they, you know, I took pretty good notes. I think people will see at the start of the show I did this from memory after I saw the film, but I realized that when the turtles took down Superfly with the chemical, I zoned out. I was detached from the movie in that moment. That's not what you want. That's not in that third act. That's when I think a lot of the errors in the first 2 acts really kind of come into play, and then that's when you start to really kind of like be like, okay, I'm kind of done. I'm kind of out. You kind of like have forced me out of the story at this point. And so like the first act, I feel is like, I with you in disagreeing with some of the choices on the backstory stuff, but I'm pretty in. And then on the second part, like when they meet April and they're like they visit the high school and all that stuff, I'm still in. It's a bit montagey, it's a bit brief. Everything's brief, but it's fine because it's a Turtles movie. And then by the third act, you get the plan. But then I'm kind of bored by it. The way that the New Yorkers, like they reference the Spider-Man stuff and the way that it actually happens, I think we agree was a bit weak. Like it's like a cab driver who's just like doing the handoff with the serum.
When we mean by Spider-Man stuff, it kind of reminded me of the ending to the Amazing Spider-Man film, where like the New York helps Spider-Man. They move the crane so he can get to the Oscorp building. You're just like, all right, man, we gotta help the Spider-Man. It's like, all righty. They don't really help anybody, so it's like April should have just been down on the ground with the camera filming this stuff.
Dude, I'm gonna say it, dude. I'm gonna say it though.
So
I'm gonna say it. Ghostbusters 2, the higher and higher moment. Still better. Still better than this Turtles movie.
But here's the thing,
New York came together, man. 9/11, never forget.
But here's the thing. With the first Turtles film from 1990, the director, he said his whole basis for that film and the tone of that film was Ghostbusters, the first one. Mm-hmm. That you have a supernatural element, but it's really New York.
Yeah.
And it's like it kind of needs that ground. It's still in New York. Like the idea that they're gonna blanket the world. It should have just been New York. You don't need the world. Just blanket. We're gonna turn New York into the mutant capital. The big the big sort of apple, the big anchovy, or whatever they want to call it. Like,
did you want him to partially succeed like I did? I was hoping he was going to it was going to misfire, and we were going to have like the zoo make all of these new mutants, and then like it was going to be like a crazy world after that, and like it was going to be like this exponential threats are everywhere. In my brain as I'm watching it, I imagine like Shredder is out there. And it goes that he gets hit with some of the fucking quote gamma rays from the thing, and then he becomes like hulked out, and like shit like really goes south, and we see like, oh fuck, like Superfly fells, but he's made the world more dangerous, and now the Turtles got to clean it up. Like I was hoping in the first film, and instead it's just like really small, and it's a bit just by the numbers, like especially in that third act, it's very lazy.
Yeah, like if you're Godzilla and he change that much. If you're really going to change that much, then go unexpected, with the ending, set up a world like, why we got a sequel in a TV series coming out? Because now the whole world's mutants, or all of New York is mutants now. And it turned the humans into mutants too. Like, it could have had the inverse effect is that everyone became a mutant, right? Like humans and animals. And so they're in a different world now. Like that's really where like, you go, oh wow, like what is, but and
I would have went with more of a Smilex distribution method from Batman 89 as opposed to I would have put it in the would have put it in the dog food and the cat food and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like in the pet food and stuff, and because they were the ones who were being like,
it's in the pizza.
But they were the ones that were that humans were treating as pets. And like they were the ones who needed the liberation from, what I mean, stuff like that. Like I would have taken it a little more angry PETA, like a mutant PETA style, not a PETA brand.
Are you trying to get Ben Shapiro all riled up? Like, what are you doing?
All I have to do is talk about when Splinter had the gay kiss with the sexless mutant. I mean, people are like, is it a somebody's like, is it a gay kiss? I'm like, I don't even know if that thing has a gender. You tell me. I have no fucking idea. I left the movie watching a rat kiss a fucking monster, and I was like, I don't care if it's gay. I don't care what it is. It has nothing to do with reality. You know what I mean? I'm like,
right.
Cares at that point? I mean, I don't know. Yeah. It was literally not applicable to us. I don't think.
Yeah, and I don't care about that. It's the lack of the clan stuff, the clan, the ninja shit, right? I can't the clan, the ninja that I don't know.
Yeah, but once again, I do, and I'm with you. I don't agree with the angle that they took on that stuff. I don't like it as much as the classic or more classical version of the turtle story. But also, if there's a reason for it, if there's something I can't foresee that will come out in the series and the sequels, and there was like actual like forethought to this, and it ends up being great, then I'll happily be like, oh, cool, like I'm down to go with the fantasy. And like Robert mentions, you know, he doesn't think it's going to go any darker. And I'm like, well, you know, and you, Robert, very well may be correct. But if they don't, they will be making a mistake. Now, number one, I think that the Frank Miller darkness into a degree is a huge turnoff to pop audiences. It's very much a counterculture look. It's not actually for everybody. People don't like noir. Nerds and film people like noir. Nobody else does. It's a big turnoff in a pop way, I think, overall. Like, unless it's done in a very specific kind of like fucking Tim Burton way or whatever. So
Shredder can be that.
Shredder, yeah, Shredder.
That's
Shredder
what I'm saying. The Shredder is that. The Shredder is that part. So he's that part. They're not that part. They're an amalgamation of all worlds, right? The best of all worlds.
They're bright. They're bright, and that's the dark.
He's the difference.
Yeah. But look at Spider-Verse. Spider-Verse went fucking way dark compared to the first film, and it's my son says it's the best movie of the year and the best movie he's ever seen. He's 9. And I'm with them so far in that I think it is the best movie of the year. That's, you know, for everybody. It's no Oppenheimer, but it's fucking probably a movie I will watch 1,000 times more than I will ever watch Oppenheimer again. So I loved it, and so did my kids. My daughter fell asleep during it though. She said it was about an hour too long, so a little long for kids at the same time. So this movie had the length right, but it didn't have it wasn't as brave. It didn't. And in the same summer that Spider-Verse came out, with this movie coming out, it shows exactly where the movie shines and where it doesn't. It's more pronounced, I would say, where it has its dull spots, where it has its sort
Spider-Verse is well paced.
It's well paced.
Between the acts is extremely high.
Yeah. I mean, your attention span in Spider-Verse is continually fed. Like, it's continually like, okay, look over here now, watch this. Like, it does, it's genius on the way that it does that. Like, my mind never drifted during Spider-Verse. I loved it, by the way. I have no problems with the movie. I even like that it is long. But that's what she said. But this Turtles movie still does come out. That is its peer. I mean, they're both like not necessarily a traditional animation style. They're released within 2.5 months or so. I can't remember, something like really close together the same summer. And it's like you can see what I would say, like, Spider-Verse is the gold standard, and this wasn't silver. This was like a bronze, you know, I would say attempt, but I believe in it. Like, that's the whole thing. That's where I'm like, on the show, I think it was you who suggested that this is something like Spider-Verse. They need to grow. This is an opportunity to do that and make it into something bigger. If they grow this and they do a good job, then I'm down. And if there's things that I don't like in the movie, like I said, that end up playing out, then I'm all about it. Now, new channel member, JL Wireman. And in case you're wondering, he is a superhero. He's Wireman. Where does this movie land on your all's TNMT movie ranking? I think it might be in my top 3. I really dig the art style. It's definitely in my top 2 right now. It's kind of weird because, see, when I saw the first Turtles film, it was a huge moment for me. I was like 10, 11 years old. It was a fucking fantastic movie. I was elated the whole time. I left buzzed about how much I liked the movie and the action and how funny it was and stuff. Now, this movie has moments where the chemistry of the Turtles and the performers is better, but at the same time, it didn't give it to me in a dose that brought me back, that made me feel like it could compete with my childhood memory, which isn't fair. But at the same time,
I watch this film often. It doesn't have the scene where the Splinter in the fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it doesn't have that. It doesn't have they get a really big loss, like April's store being caught on fire and everything. They don't have a real big loss, you know, like they do that thing that's it seems to be popular now where they use exposition as their feelings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me just exposit my, is that the word? Like
exposit.
Yeah, let me just say my emotional arc in words.
Let me expose myself.
You know, as if, you know, as I'm being irreverent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I just like, that's the Marvel thing, and I don't think that's as strong as. But this is if they did that in Avatar 2 with the whale, you know what I'm telling you, that movie would have failed. You know, like let emotion be emotion. You know, and know when a joke is a joke, and know when kick to the, you know, the heart is a real punch to the heart, right? Like, and it
but
kind of like there's opportunity for it, like Splinter being alone, like when he's by himself because he's so afraid to leave the sewers, he can't be with this kid. You know, like if he were like if he was watching on TV, his kids needed his help. You know what I mean? Like, and he has to get over his paralysis, you know, his fear of the world. Like, there's something there, and it's just like, don't be afraid to go there because it's going to make everything else seem more fun and better. Like, that's the problem. So for me, the first movie's still the best. I would say second, even though I still think my second choice suffers some of the same problems this movie had, would be the 2007 CGI movie TMNT.
That's my third.
It has a Pokemon problem, but I've made a fan edit of that film. My publisher, Dave Alverson, was friends with the director of that, you know, and I was working on a fan edit that just trimmed a bit of that out and focused on Raphael and Leonardo, because it does sort of, the storyline sort of serves as a sequel to the live action films if you edit it right. It really does. So, and I just think, you know, but artistically this is super great. So I just think that TMNT one I can leave on a loop more than this movie. It's just, I don't know, like I would leave this on a loop with the sound off. Which sucks because I enjoy the banter. It's just they won't shut up. Like sometimes they need a little less talky sometimes. Like it's just a little, the kids I get talking, but the whole world fucking won't stop yammering. You know, like I don't understand how they're supposed to be different. You know, like their dynamic isn't, like when they're talking too much and April says, yeah, this isn't making people like you more. Like that's true. But then the whole world yammers like them. So I'm not
well, that's why I thought that was like in The Empire Strikes Back when Irvin Kershner's like, when they're waiting on the Falcon, you can't say this is boring or the audience will think it's boring. And I thought it was a mistake that she says that very thing that we're feeling at that moment, because then it became like it's acknowledged that it's kind of annoying, not in a good way. Yeah. And like for me, the first Turtles film is it doesn't hold up entirely for me. It doesn't hold up, like it doesn't play as well as it did for me when I was a kid. And so in certain ways I prefer this one. And in certain ways though, it doesn't really hit the same spots. It doesn't, the audience was not delighted to the same level though that I felt that first film like hit for its day. So I don't think we have that here on this one. I don't think we have that. I don't think we have a big hit here is what I'm saying with the audience. And I do think it's, you know, it's a good effort, but yeah, I'm probably going to still give it to the original Turtles, then this one, then the 2007, and then Turtles 2 and Turtles in Time. If somebody's got drugs, Turtles in Time.
No, it's not a movie. Technically, I guess it kind of is, but the Turtles animated OAV, where it's the 80s cartoon and the 2005 cartoon have to like team up or whatever. There was like a multiverse animated bit. I'll put over Turtles 2 any day of the week. Like I'll put that over it any day of the week.
What Wireman brings up Batman versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which I had a good time with.
Some of the lamest art I've ever seen. It's poorly animated. Sorry, I have to disagree. I can't. It's as wooden as it gets. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I watched that during the
I'm sorry.
pandemic times when it was like really. Is that when that came out? I feel like that's when that came out. It's been I hadn't thought about it in a
I
long
know
time
people
though.
like it, but I'm sorry, but
No,
creatively it's just
I like it, but I don't love it. I don't love it. Like for me, if it wasn't a theatrical film, it's the question. I'm taking it just to the theatrical.
It's just crazy that the Turtles have appeared with Batman, but they've never appeared with Daredevil. That's just so weird, dude. Like,
yeah,
you know, like why are they tied to Batman? I mean, they didn't even, the movies didn't even come out the same year. You know, so I don't understand. I don't understand this. You know.
Unfortunately, Ben has already gone to sleep probably, but he says this feels like a wait till it comes on streaming for me movie. And I would say if you aren't a huge Turtles fan or you don't have children, it's probably where it's going to fall for you. Realistically, like I wouldn't recommend it to most of my adult friends to go and see. It's not like Spider-Verse where I'm like, you gotta see that shit. Like this one's not a you gotta see that shit. But but if you did like if the Turtles ever meant anything to you, this is probably the best outing since the original film. And it's modern. So there's that going for it, I guess, you know. But yeah, I don't know. Do you feel like you could give it a ranking out of 10? Do you think you have a number for it before we go? Do you think you have one in your mind, or is that not a thing you'd like to do?
I put it in the same category as The Flash. You know, it has some moments. It's visually, it's better because there's more of it. You know, so I guess it'd be right above The Flash. You know,
yeah, because I feel like Spider-Verse was an 8, and I feel like this is like a 6.5.
You're being Spider-Verse is a 9, dude. I think you're not
I think Spider-Verse is a 9.
Movies is
No. I'm with you. You're right. I said Spider. I have it like it's on my letterbox. I could prove it. Spider-Verse would be a 9. Oh yeah. Blame Bestman Bulletin. He's the one who's like, where's you haven't updated your letterbox. And I'm like, okay, here I go. But yeah, I would say Spider-Verse is a 9. I don't believe in 10s for the record, and I'd say it's a 9. And I would say like this is like a 6.5, and I really want to give it a 7, but I don't think I can. I think when I watch it again on Saturday, I don't think I'm going to like it more, and I'm curious to see if the tedious moments are even more tedious or not. And I would love to feel differently about it, but if they make a sequel, which they're supposed to, I will go see the sequel for sure. I will see what they do with it. And then that's where I will be in or out. I will try the series when it comes out, but I don't know if the movie's only hitting at like a 6.5 for me, I probably don't expect much from the series. But sometimes the series is better. I'm a big Clone Wars fan, and the series was better than the
weird.
film. So.
They didn't come up with the theme song in the movie to go along with that TV series. Seems like really odd.
Is it weird that like I really wanted like Groove is in the Heart to be in this movie?
Hey, look, who doesn't want more delight, right? Who doesn't? The band, I'm telling you, that band was ahead of its time. You know, like everything about that band holds up.
It was released, Rob? 1990.
91. 1990 or that was 91?
No, it was released in 1990. It was released in 1990.
Yeah, she's way ahead. Way ahead. Yeah.
So but like I said, there's a ton of potential here. I did like the Flash better. I liked the Flash better. I thought the Flash was a better movie. I probably respect this endeavor more than the Flash, but I like the Flash better. And it doesn't, I don't know, it probably makes right now it might make my top 10 of the year, but I don't, it's look, definitely not my top of the summer.
It's just tough because we just got, Shredder's Revenge, the game. And I'm like, that game is pretty damn good. That's chock full of turtle goodness. So it's like, it's just like, I don't know. It's like, I want to see more of this universe. I just need a story that, is just not I'm a bigger fan of Batman Begins than you, right? But you can see this needs to step up to the Dark Knight level, like needs a little bit of a jump here,
It does. Yeah. And like I said, I'm looking forward, like the fact that it ends with the Turtles in high school is not something I had considered. And that may be the shot that this franchise needs to go into a whole different place, like what Cobra Kai did for Karate Kid. It could be it.
Yeah.
So, but it also might not be. But let us know in the comments when you guys see it, what you think, and if you think we're dumb or if you think we're right, or what.
We're not telling you what to think, by the way.
I
am
not
telling you.
You should agree with me. Rob, don't agree with him at all. You're dumb if you're Rob, but agree with me. I beat the NES game. He didn't. He just drew the arcade machine.
No, I beat the NES game. No, I beat the first NES game. Yeah, I got 99 scrolls. I had to do that, but I got it. I beat it. Yeah,
remember how fun it was when the arcade one came out, though? Like the one that you drew, like when that very first.
Listen, I did
like,
school.
That was
I
so
did
good.
School. And got caught by the cops for ditching school just to go play.
Speaking of Karate Kid, I played it at golf and stuff where Karate Kid is filmed. Like that's where I went through. That's where I used to go to play it. It was a good time. One of the only places that had it like in my area at first. But yeah,
I still play well, I had the arcade one up, so I got a light up heat thing. So I still play. I play that monthly. I just turn it on and
so before we go. When I was a kid, I lived in this really poor neighborhood, and it was like a bunch of duplexes, right? And it was a really weird. It was like racially segregated in the sense that white people would own a row and they would only rent to the white people. Black people would own a row, they would only rent to the black people. It was what it was. But what we ended up having was a really cool street full of different kinds of people. All, you know what I mean? All of us were broke as shit, but everybody grew up and everybody played together. But there was this one house, and it was used to bring people from Mexico with coyotes in, and they had dug underground and made like a place to like hide people that they were bringing over.
Jesus.
And
where are we going with this, Nathan?
Well, they got caught, and everybody who owned that thing went to a prison or jail or whatever. We never saw them again. So for like a year, that whole row of houses is just there. Then Turtles comes out and we form our Turtle Club, right? And everybody's like got like side, and I'm smart. I'm like, oh, I don't have nunchucks. I'll be Donatello because I just have to use a fucking broomstick, right? And stuff like that. Well, we end up going our Turtle Club, our turtles. We break into that house where they used to hide the people in the basement to see if it was true. We fucking open it up, and we live in California. We don't have basements. It's maybe the only basement I've ever been in California in my life, and it's you know what I mean. It's like concrete. It's like a concrete staircase down into the ground. But over the course of when Turtles comes out, we just start fucking just chipping away, fucking beating up that building. And eventually, like the whole house, like goes like sideways, and then we all ran.
Oh no!
This is after us beating the shit out of the house for like weeks, and then they came and they tore it down. Yeah, but I was a badass Ninja Turtle. I fucking fought a house and I took it down. So, anyways,
yeah, that just reminded me how much kids love being ninjas. There's an opportunity for like a Halloween bit at their high school where everyone dresses up like turtles, but they don't, right? The turtles don't dress up.
Yeah.
Like, all the kids want to be ninjas, but they want to be like different things. Like, yeah, so I am interested in that part of it, so I just everything can be iterated upon, it's worth the effort. I just hope that we get more of that and less of repeating milking jokes for 15 minutes.
Yeah. And I think the jokes worked better for me than they did for you, but I'm going to see it a second time. So that second time is going to be, how funny does Jason really think it is? You know what I mean? At that point, that's where I'm either going to be like, Rob, you're right. I'm with you, man. I got no patience for this shit anymore. But but we'll see. Yeah. Well, Rob, we'll see everybody tomorrow, right? Do you have any more thoughts on Turtles? Or are we out of here?
We're out of here.
We're out of here. All right, everybody. We'll see everybody tomorrow. Talk about Star Wars and all that jazz. Thank you to everybody who became a channel member today. The Wireman. Thank you, Wireman. And thank you for
Wireman.
The super chats today. We'll see everybody tomorrow. Have a good night. And if you see Turtles, let us know what you think. I'm curious to see where the movie fell for you and if you agreed with us or not. Bye.
It's the end of the show.
Come on, let's go. Hey!
It's the end of the show.
Come on, let's go. Hey!
It's the end of the show.
Come on, let's go. Hey!
You know you should go.
Come on, let's go.
It's not about spaceships.